So my name's Paul Singh. I'm a partner at 500 Startups. This actually is not my first time in India. I grew up coming here every year for at least a month or two every year. These last 12 months or so, I've been here probably every 60 days or so, mostly splitting my time between Delhi, Bangalore, and Mumbai. So it's been great. I mean, it's been a great experience. Good food, good startups, and a great market. I don't think the startup scene is new in India. In fact, I mean, just look around you. You've got Make My Trip and Naukri.com, and you've got MyGola, and you've got Direct Eye. The point is that companies have existed for a while. The startup scene has existed. Now, what has changed, I think, is that figuratively, the last decade figuratively has been sort of about service businesses, right? So you've got these big service shops that kind of gave India, I think, sort of the impression that the world has of it, which is you outsource to India, or you have these back offices in India. What's changing now is that you've got more product companies. And so that's, I think, the big change. I think the next 3 to 5 years here are going to be very, very pivotal. I actually also think you're going to start to see a lot more exits in India as more and more product companies that have already climbed the curve are able to use their cash now to buy other younger product companies. So this is a really, really exciting time here. 500 Startups, we're very aggressive. I mean, statistically, we probably do one new deal somewhere on the planet every other day, or maybe every third day, including India. So the way that we look at an Indian startup is really no different than the way we look at a startup in Brazil or the US or Russia. Fundamentally, and all of what I'm about to tell you is actually online. All of our checklists, everything is online. So we are looking for companies that have the core team in place. And to us, that means the hacker, the hustler, and the designer. That means we're also looking for companies that have a prototype, right? We don't really look at idea stage companies. We're looking for companies that have small but meaningful usage, right? So have somebody use it. Look, I would love it if you have thousands of users. But if you can show me a few users using your product often and regularly, that's meaningful to me, and that's the stage at which we would probably invest. So again, there's a checklist of like 7 or 8 things that are all online. Well, look, I think there are more and more accelerators in India, just like everywhere else on the planet. I mean, look at us, we're an accelerator, right? We started 2 years ago. But I think the fact is that there are more accelerators out there. There are more early stage investors out there. There is a lot out there. I don't think I would call it a bubble. I think, if anything, what I would say is that the early stage money is increasingly becoming available, either through accelerators or through angels. And that's globally, including India. And then there's also, so that set of investment is growing. The later stage set of investors has always been there, so right, the Sequoias, the Excels, the Matrixes, they're always been there. If anything has changed, it's just there's this gap in the middle, right? So there's this gap. You've got more and more companies now that can raise money at the early stage, either through an accelerator or through angels. But now they've got to be able to bridge that gap. They might be able to raise $25,000 or $50,000 from these early stage folks, but now you need more and more funds like ourselves that are able to help bridge that gap to the later stage, which are the the $2 to $5 million checks. Here in India, we're seeing certainly there's us. Right off the top of my head, there's sort of firms like Bloom Ventures and India Internet Fund and others that are now filling that gap of about $100,000 to $250,000 checks. But that's the big challenge for India, though, is can more investors start to bridge that gap?
Okay.
I think the answer is yes. I wouldn't be here if I was going to be the only one filling that gap. That's just like everywhere on the planet, right? Is that there are a lot of businesses that are not yet online. Particularly in India, I think the reason for that is that the consumer side of it is just now coming online.
Okay.
Right? So, I mean, depending on which stats you read or believe, you've got 100 million people on the internet today in India. You'll probably have 5x that number by the end of 2015. And alongside that curve, you will see a lot of the traditional businesses here start to sell online. Certainly there's also the other aspect of it, which is the policy side. So for example, one of the challenges that I think internet companies are going to face here in India is that I think it's your RBI, your Reserve Bank of India, has guidelines against that make it hard for SaaS businesses to exist. Right? In the U.S., for example, it's relatively easy to set up a business that will be able to take a recurring monthly payment from customers. Well, in India, you can't really do that. Right? You can't store the credit card. So doing something that's renewal based is very tough. So all I'm suggesting is that the main thing is that the consumer market has to come online. The other thing that would really help this market, though, is I think that some of the government policies have to kind of be updated to take advantage of that. Well, I think the challenge that Indian founders have is the same challenge that everybody else has in Brazil or even the middle of the U.S. And that is that I believe that tech is now a commodity, right? It's table stakes. You have to be able to build the product that you want to raise money for. Traction is the new intellectual property, so you have to figure out how to get a few users to use it. And I can certainly help you get it to the next level from there too. But the third thing is communication. If you can't tell a story, a crisp, clean story about what your business does, you're going to have a hard time raising money. Never mind me. You'll have a hard time raising money. You'll have a hard time getting the press to care. You have a hard time getting new employees. You'll have a hard time telling your mother what you do. And so I think one of the big opportunities for the Indian founder especially is to think about how you tell your story in less than 3 minutes. The framework that I give to people, or the template that I give to people, is you typically want to start out with something like, today X people used my product Y times, and that was worth Z dollars or things or whatever. So that's the first sentence. The second sentence is, the problem is whatever the problem is. And then the third sentence is, and here's how we solve it. And you should be able to say those 3 sentences within 3 minutes, and then just stop. That's the key. It's interesting. I've had other investors say to me, hey, it must be so easy to invest in India because founders must love you. Yeah, I guess so, but actually that's not, I don't really feel that way, because see, the paradox of investing is that we all want to invest in the best companies, but the best founders don't really need us. They've created their market. They've been able to get a lot of investors excited. In that sense, it's been just as hard for us to get into a deal here as it's been globally. So what I've kind of had to do is focus on what our value add is, right? So look, our strategy of kind of a Moneyball approach to start investing is that we write, our initial checks on average are about $50,000 US. Our second checks are typically in the $100,000 to $250,000 range. Our third check can be, you know, $500,000 to $1 million or more. So we want to invest more and more. But if you think about it, it's a lot of work to track us down, pitch us and all that for just $50,000. That being said, though, if you need access to the best data, design, and distribution mentors on the planet, you want us in that deal. If you want help raising money from local investors and global investors, you probably want us in your deal. If you're in any of the investment verticals we care about, you probably want us in your deal. So the point is, I've had to make a strong case for why we want to be, or why we're good investors for companies. But the key is, please don't, I hope nobody thinks that it's easy for us in this market. I think the fact is that Indian founders, I think, pound for pound, have more expertise than anywhere I've seen anywhere on the planet. And if you look around here, you've got an increasing number of product-focused businesses that are now starting to make a lot of revenue. You're starting to see exits. I just talked to a founder. I don't think I can disclose the name just yet, because until he announces it, but a product-based company that started in India, bootstrapped in India, and is now exiting to an Indian company for, you know, north of 20 or 30 million bucks, right? And you're going to see a lot more of those. And so those are, think about it, right? Here's the one other thing I would say about that. One observation I've kind of had is that I think that early stage valuations fluctuate country to country. Right, so India has a certain early stage valuation, Brazil and Russia, all these places have different early stage valuations. But later stage valuations seem to be normalized globally. And so I think that's just, I think, an interesting thing that we're all going to have to deal with, other Indian investors as well. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The next 3 to 5 years in India are going to be very pivotal. I think that where India's startup scene has come in the last 18 months has been kind of transformational, and I think the next 3 to 5 years are going to make these last 18 months look like easy. So we've invested in over 400 companies in 20 countries, and I always tell people that we love all of our children the same. So I really don't want to pick favorites, but what I will say is that there are a lot of really good companies here in India, and that's actually the reason why I hope people realize that we haven't really put full-time 500 startups staff in many places on the planet, but we are going to have one in India. Pankaj Jain is based in Delhi. He'll be based there full-time, and he'll be operating 500, he'll be the full-time person in India. And so the only reason I say that is because I hope it shows that how much we like in the market, because we can't do this from 8,000 miles away, right? We need somebody here, and we want to invest a lot of money in this country. And so I think Pankaj is probably the first of a larger footprint that we will have in India. Thank you.